Oh, it's over here. So if you can't see the video very well, I apologize. Hi. Hi, Dana. So she gonna be here?
Yes, she will be here tonight. Yeah.
And I was gonna get him out. I was gonna make sure he wasn't elected again. So.
Okay, there you go. I'm
Melinda, Rafael, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, I briefly talked to you on the get together, and then there was a thing going on Tuesday, and I completely spaced it. I've been working.
Oh, yeah.
And
Life
so,
happens for sure.
yeah, so
Yeah, she will be.
I just found out about this. I was on Facebook and saw it. It's like, oh, they're down the street. I got to go.
Good. Well, I know they have questions.
Yeah, actually, I think I left mine over there, but
I think that Steve right here that's sitting in the very front with the glasses and the name of the church, he probably has the idea, he probably knows about questions. So if you want to see him.
What was your name again? Melissa?
Melinda.
Melinda. Nice to meet you. I might have to ask you again.
No worries.
Yeah, I was sitting there. Yeah, I like to have this corner one, if you don't mind.
It's not mine.
Oh, that's not yours? And I'll pick it up. You can go ahead and have that.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'll sit over here. Sorry, excuse me. It's all right. So you're the guy in charge of questions or what?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
No,
I thought they told me you were. Somebody
No.
said you were.
You have a question? I don't even know how if they're going to so much or not.
Yeah, the lady said they would.
Oh,
Just
okay.
wanted to make sure.
Yep.
What is that media for?
No, that's all right. If I can put a chair right behind this, yeah.
What kind of media is that for?
I'm just here for Brad's kid, just filming her for Brad.
For her?
I'm hired from an outside company, so just coming in. So I'm not sure what the end product will be.
This is my husband's truck. This is Dan. I don't know if yeah, it'd be so long ago and maybe yeah. That's my excuse for not recognizing you. Yeah. Giving you an out if you don't recognize me.
You can watch that any day now.
Thanks for coming to the farm.
Thank you.
Very question you want to ask.
I need another pen.
Another pen?
Yeah, I lost. I don't know what happened to the other one.
There you go.
Hi, how's it going? Raphael. Jimmy.
Yeah, Raphael.
Yeah,
Nice to meet you.
I saw you at the city council for the flag
Yep,
and your
yep,
vote,
yep.
and I stood up and I told you I was going to make sure you got seated out.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So
you're doing your work.
I'm trying to do it.
All right, sounds good. Well, good
Nice
luck.
meeting you, though.
Yeah,
Thanks a
good luck.
lot. Appreciate it. So these are all the people here, and you can see why voting is for. Not very many people are candidates, or at least interested in our community politics. We'll see what happens. It looks like each councilman gonna have this is City Boise Council District 6 Candidate Forum, October 23rd. October 23rd at Pierce Park Elementary School. Sorry, I'm gonna try to hope that as still as I can. Candidates Ben Radisco, Jimmy Halliburton, and Lisa Sanchez is for District 6. Format, 1.5 minute opening statements from each candidate. Moderates introduction will be limited to stating candidate's name. Order of sitting and speeches will be determined by number draw. Questions from audience? The audience written by audience members, sorted and read by moderators. 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. All candidates will respond to each question. 1.5 minutes closing statements for each candidate. You can find City Council, sorry, I'm shaking. Council District at City website. So there, you guys can look into it. So I got two questions that I'm going to be asking. One is, what are the current city councilmen doing about the emulate violation that were served by Jessica Saxton and in July? And what about candidates going to do? What are future candidates going to do? It's going to be my first question. The second question, what are the city councilmen candidates doing about stopping Amendment 5, Clause 1? Actually, yeah, and ending police unlawfulness. We'll see how that goes. Close the jacket. Hopefully that'll help us a little bit. So, is somebody gonna pick up? Can we turn them in?
I was gonna come and get him, but thank you.
Yeah.
For free.
You're welcome. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30, 31. 31 citizens of District 6. This is sad. This should be filled right now completely. Yeah, no problem. What's your name?
Lisa Sanchez.
Lisa Sanchez.
And what is your name?
Rafael Lopez.
Rafael, thank you for coming tonight.
Good, good. I read briefly a little thing about you that was written on some publication. And seems like you lean more towards the left and the right, or where you stand?
I lean more towards the working poor and renters. I try to help people who are like me. I'm not a homeowner. Renters have a hard time in this environment.
I agree.
So that's the work that I'm mostly known for, and yeah, I mean,
I support it to a certain extent, but I also believe people should take responsibility for their choices. And
35 to 40% of the people in Boise are renters. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people, if they could, they would want to path to home ownership.
yeah, and I
that's-
agree, and I think that it's important. But I think where there's a will, there's a way. I was a single dad of two boys, and I was able to purchase a house
Yeah, I
in
was too.
2008.
I see. So you took advantage of the foreclosure.
Yeah.
Situation.
Well, not really. Actually, when I bought the house, about 3 years later, the house was worth like 50,000 less than what I bought it.
Oh, so you got right at the very beginning.
And
Because that's
I
when-
got it right at
yeah.
the beginning, so I didn't take
Yeah.
advantage of that.
If you
But
had waited 2 more years,
I came. Well, I wasn't gonna wait. I wanted to buy one, but I needed stability for
Yeah.
my boys, because
And for me, I got my house in the early 2000s, lost it in 2010. I tried everything I could, except swallowing my pride, Rafael. That's one
Yeah,
thing I learned.
that's-
Somebody had offered, they're like, Lisa, I can loan you the money to catch up.
Yeah.
And like, the thought of owing a person thousands
Well,
of dollars
I came to
terrified
losing the
me.
house a couple of times. What I did is I worked with the bank on a modification of the loan and stuff like that.
And the place, I mean,
The bank that owned the loan, that's who I
yeah,
worked with.
And that's the thing is, I tried everything I could, and Obama was supposed to do something for us, and
Yeah.
I don't think the program he had did anything for anybody. I think it was called the HEMP program,
Home, what?
home assistance, homeowners assistance, mortgage program, something like that.
Oh,
But-
they give you $8,000. They gave me $8,000.
and that's the thing. It's if you've got one mortgage.
Yes.
But if you had 2 mortgages, like I did,
Oh.
I took out a loan so I could go
A
to
second.
school, so I could finish my schooling,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I didn't.
No, it was for a loan,
Yeah.
but that was a primary loan. It was
Yeah.
I had to pay that back in a number of 5 years.
Yeah, oh my
I had to
gosh.
pay back that money. They
Yeah.
took it out of my taxes every year.
Yeah.
No, it was longer because it was $8,000, so it took me a long time to pay
So
it
it's
back.
been a while since you've rented, right? Are you still a homeowner? Or are
I'm
you
still a
renting?
homeowner. I've owned that
So,
same house for
yeah.
17 years.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, the life of a renter is very
But,
different now than
you
it
know-
was when we rented.
Yeah, one of the things I'm trying to do
They're
is,
charging all kinds of fees to renters now that you and I never had to contend with.
well, one of the things I've been trying to do is I added 2 camper hookups to my property, and so that I could rent out the spots for
That's
people
smart.
that the city's giving me a hard time about it. And
We need to talk to them.
yeah,
I would love to talk to you because that is 100% what we need to do. If
well,
we
they
have-
approved the tiny home. It became law July 1st, but the thing is that they've never done it, and
I
I'm
think you're not
encountering
the first-
I'm
you're not
encountering
the
so
first
much
one I've heard.
problems with that, and
My
it's like,
former campaign manager wanted to do an ADU, and she ran into the same issue. It's too complicated,
yeah,
and we need those houses now.
yeah, exactly, and
and-
that's what I did it for. It's like if I can offer 2 places for someone to live,
Mhm.
single person, or I'm mostly for the elderly people, older like above 40, because I don't want drama.
good. Then we need to talk, Rafael.
No, I don't want drama from young people partying and causing problems.
Yeah.
It's a nice, quiet neighborhood, and that's the way I want to keep it.
Yeah.
Right now, I have roommates, and I'm renting out 3 rooms to roommates, and they're happy and content, and
I think a lot of people are doing that now.
Yeah.
That's why I think the last time I ran was 2021, and I won the vote by 57% of the vote. So people were happy.
So what happened?
I was a renter, and I lost my home with 30 days notice.
No, you talking about the councilman? What was the vote for?
When I got elected to the Boise City Council in 2021 for the second time, 57% of the vote.
So did you serve?
Almost all
Oh.
the way through, but halfway through, my landlord decided not to renew my lease.
So
And I
that takes
had-
you out of
and
the
I had
councilman?
30 days to move. And the city, I turned to them to give me information so I could move where I could still serve. They seemed to think it was a mistake. I don't think it was a mistake.
Because you were renting instead of having to rent instead of owning a home?
This is what I've learned, Rafael. These positions of power, they don't like poor people. They don't like renters. Because that's who I work for. I work for
Yeah.
people who don't have money.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, we
why-
definitely need to
that's-
talk. I already voted. I voted for Lynn. because I hadn't met you and I
Yeah.
talked to her before, and I read that you were more towards, you know, the left side, which I agree with certain things, but certain
We
things
have
I
to let
don't.
go of that crap.
No, I
doesn't
agree.
That doesn't pay the rent. It doesn't.
No, I
you know,
agree.
that's-
I agree.
But I'd love to
Yeah, let's talk. So I'm gonna get a head count. So it starts at 7. So there you go. You just met one of the candidates. But it is what it is. This is a city, the legal or League of Women's Voters, and this is the Boise City Council District 6 Candidate Forum. Elections, early elections started and they end on the 4th, and so these are the candidates: Lynn Bradescu, Jim Halliburton, and Lisa Sanchez, who I spoke to. Jimmy Halliburton is the current councilman, and Lynn Bradescu is running against him. So I already voted, and Jimmy, that gentleman straight ahead over there, is the one I told that a city councilman that I was going to make sure he got removed from his seat. And I just reminded him not too long ago, a few minutes ago, right over there where he was, right over there. So that's what this is about. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. 52 citizens, 53 with the gentleman that just came in, 54 with this gentleman here, and I don't know what those guys are, 54, 55, 56, 57. 57 in this room, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, and the three candidates. Excuse me. I'll go get some tissue. Sorry guys, I have to come and get some tissue. Blow my nose.
Janice is timekeeper? You're great. You're very great. She's the next one. So we'll have 5 minute introductions, followed by
I guess the candidate didn't show up. I voted for.
followed by a minute
I guess everybody's entitled to be
We
sick.
will be starting with questions that are for both candidates. We will not be answering or asking any questions that are personal attacks or that put our high candidates in positions where they can't answer in terms of the position that they are actually being a candidate for. Okay. So we have some of those. I apologize in advance if the question doesn't get answered, but those are the rules legal to the voters of the United States. We've actually been doing this for 105 years. I do have to read something that's official. The format of the evening is simple. You'll have 5 minutes each to introduce. And the question that I want you to ponder as you talk is, what motivated you? What experience you bring? And what are your goals if you should be elected to the position? Then we'll do 1.5 minute answers to each of the questions. If the candidates would like to extend their answer after both have answered, they'll have another minute, okay, to do that. I won't call it a rebuttal. There we are. Elite forums have a well-earned reputation for being respectful and well-managed, and we look forward to continuing that tradition this evening. The League is a grassroots network and membership organization that believes the freedom to vote is a non-partisan issue. We work to empower voters and defend democracy. Encourage everyone to participate in that democracy. To learn more about the candidates, both of them have completed our questionnaire on our voters guide, vote411.org. It is the only nonpartisan, comprehensive, statewide, online voters guide in Idaho. So with that, allow me to introduce Eleanor, who won the toss. Eleanor, who won the toss? All right then. Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming here tonight, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Lisa Sanchez. I have lived in Boise, Idaho since 1989, when I had the honor of being the first person in my family to attend a 4-year university. I was fortunate enough to benefit from a federal program for farm workers and the children of farm workers called the College Assistance Migrant Program, which sadly is one of the many federal programs that is currently being funded. And I weep for the young people at Boise State and other universities, not just in our state, but in our country, who are going to be denied the same opportunities that have made it possible for me to be here and to be a leader in this community. It started with that national investment to help the children of farm workers and farm workers themselves to find a way out of the fields and into the university so that they can better express and put forward their talents and skills with the help of university education. One of the reasons that I ran for office the first time in 2017 was because I was made aware after that first presidential election that made Donald Trump our president. I became aware of a privilege that I had that I really didn't spend much time thinking about, and that is my legal status in this country. I'm born in Phoenix, Arizona, to a black Mexican-American Texan and a white Mexican national from Tampa de Jalisco. And I realized I never really explored what it meant that I got to be a U.S. citizen, not because I did anything to earn that privilege. I just got lucky and I was born in this country. And so it woke me up to all the many privileges that I get. And one of those privileges is that I get to run for office. I did get my first taste of politics as the first Latina, the first woman of color elected as student body vice president at Boise State in 92, and then I served as president in 93. I thought I got it out of my system after that virus was reawakened, and I decided to run again. And once I got into the council, I realized that there is a missing perspective in BOISE in a lot of elected positions. We don't know that until you enter those spaces. We don't see a lot of people who are low income. We don't see a lot of people who are renters. It is a unique perspective to live that particular lifestyle. Your life can change from one moment to the next when you may lose your housing with 30 days notice, and it makes it difficult to create a thriving life when you have those types of disruptions. So when I was in the city council for 5 years, that was what I focused on. I focused on renter protections, managed to pass a renter application fee ordinance in 2019, which was my second year on the council during my first term, managed to protect that legislation from being preempted at the State House during the height of COVID, mind you. I'm a type 2 diabetic, had no business down at the State House, but we leaders were willing to sacrifice for the greater good. So we managed to protect that ordinance from preemption in 21 and 22, but I did that with the constituents who wanted that legislation. And that is one of the major things I've learned in my time at the City Hall, was that if you're going to work on legislation like that, it needs to have buy-in from the community that it's going to benefit, because it will be challenged. That's just the nature of what we do in the city. Unfortunately, we do end up having a lot of our work challenged by the City House. And so our work does not end once we pass the legislation at the city level. And so that is primarily why I want to return. I see what happens when we don't have that perspective in those leadership roles. I feel that my time away has broadened my perspective. This district was also denied the representation in 2023. I lost my housing with 30 days notice at the end of 2022 and relied on accurate information from the city, which wasn't there. I trusted it, I moved, and unfortunately I was out of my district and was not appointed back to my seat, which I believe was the right thing to do. The last time I ran for office was in 21, and I won this election with 57% of the vote. So that's also something I want to do upon return, to make sure that that never happens again. It's a chilling experience to have something that is portrayed as a mistake not be corrected. The voters deserve to have their voice honored. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First thing I want to do is I want to thank the Legal Women Voters for hosting this forum tonight, for all the work we've done over the years to promote and spread democracy. This is our only public forum that we have for all the city council candidates this year. And so it's an important time for us to be able to have conversations, and I want to thank the Sanchez for being here as well, so that you can hear from both of us. I wish we would have been able to make it. I think that these conversations are good for democracy. so everyone can hear a voice that maybe resonates or doesn't resonate with them, and then they can make an educated decision on who they want to represent or represent them in their district. So thank you for putting this forum together tonight. Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for being here, and I want to thank you all for being here as well. This is a big deal. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. There are plenty of places to be, and you have decided to be here to make sure that you can have an informed vote on election day. And that means a lot. And that's good for democracy, and that's something that we all need to be fighting for right now, is making sure that we are engaged deeply in democracy. My name is Jimmy Hollywood. I'm the current city council member for Boise District 6. And this is the district that I was born and raised in. I grew up on the very far edge of northwest Boise, Old Highway 55, where Horseshoe Bend Road, in a house that my grandpa built with the GI. My mom grew up there, sold it to my mom, and it's the same house that my sister and I grew up in as well. I went to elementary school, kindergarten, right here at First Park. Back then there was affordable where we were having our kindergarten class. It wasn't big enough then. Now it's this beautiful school in this beautiful neighborhood. I love this community. I grew up here. It means the world to me. And running for re-election to make sure that this community, this city that I love, continues to be an amazing place to live for generations to come. And tonight we're going to talk about issues. We're going to think about problems. We're going to talk about challenges the city is facing. And one thing I want to make sure that we all remember is that Boise is a great place to live. This is an amazing community. I was riding my bike over here tonight, and there were families in their front yards putting up Halloween decorations. There were kids outside riding around on their bicycles. There were leaves falling from the trees. It was a beautiful evening, and you don't have to go far. You can go to another city for a couple weeks and come back here and say, we are so lucky to live in this town. So as we talk about these challenges tonight, these challenges are important. It's important we find short-term answers to the issues that we face today, while also making long-term we are still so lucky to live in this great community. Like I said, I was born and raised right here in Boise, Idaho. I've spent my entire life in service to this community. I started as a hotshot firefighter for the Idaho City Hot Shots, worked at the Eagle Fire Department for a couple of years, and then I started the Boise Bicycle Project and ran it as the executive director for 16 years. During my time at the Boise Bicycle Project is when I really discovered how beautiful, how diverse, how talented, how much value each and every single member of this community brings to the table. And that is truly when I fell in love with this place that I call home. I have had the honor of serving as city council member for the last 6 years. Some of the biggest challenges that we've ever faced, but we overcame them time and time again, and I use that term we because it was you. It's every single person in this room coming together, doing what they can to make this place a better place for their neighbors, for their family members, and for future generations. I want to thank you for doing that. I've had this privilege of serving as a city council member in my hometown, and what a great honor that is. If there's one thing that I've learned during that time, is that this city is always stronger when we're working together. And I think that that's one of the things that has drawn me to city council, this ability to bring the neighborhoods together to solve our problems, to get creative, to figure out what we can do in moments that seem impossible. And I'm reminded time and time again that this community can do beautiful and hard things. Again, I want to thank you all so much for being here tonight. I want to thank you for being a member of this community. And I want to thank you for continuing to do the work to make Boise a greater place for everybody. Thank you.
So allow me to introduce some of the other folks who are here this evening. We have league members, is the master of all forums and also the master of Vote 411. She is a force to be reckoned with. So, let's see. I have several questions that are related to the nuts and bolts of being a city council member, but I'd like to start with one that's more broad sweeping. And I will start with Ms. Sanchez first, and then Mr. Hilton, and then I will switch order as we progress through the evening. So this is the question. Looking back on your tenure on the city council, is there anything you would have done differently?
Thank you. Yes, I think anybody who says that they have no regrets in their life is probably not reflecting very well. I would say there was one moment that I regret, and it's the moment that I entered the city council administrator's office with a letter saying that I had 30 days to move. And I asked that administrator to make an appointment for me with the city attorney's office so that I could make sure that wherever I moved, I would still be able to fulfill my term. And one aspect that I didn't talk a lot about during my time on the council was just how difficult it was for me at times to serve in a place where I was a minority. At times, it seemed like every small request came with pushback. And I now realize that's just my lot in life. I live in a place where I am a minority, and my presence is always going to be questioned by everybody. And had I to do it over again, when this administrator said no, that she would not make that appointment for me, I would have pushed back and said, according to page 7 of the BOISE City Council handbook, I have to work for you to make that appointment. It doesn't say that you get to decide if I have an appointment. So that is a regret that I have, that I didn't serve myself more.
So, I think it's impossible for people to go through a career and to have never made a mistake. And I think one of the things you expect out of people when they make a mistake, that they admit it, that they figure out what they did wrong, and that they figure out what's going forward. One of the things that I'm proud of on city council is that I have made mistakes, but I've never compromised my values. What I was trying to do was in line with my values, and looking back, there are some things that I would have done differently. And one of the biggest mistakes that I made on city council was we had a point where Officer Freeman, made some pretty terrible racist comments that were known across the entire country. And we were worried. We were worried that these racist comments, somebody who got promoted to a captain level, somehow advanced through our police department, and that there was other problems that were there as well. And we launched an investigation, and we paid a lot of money for that investigation. That investigation came back and told us that racism was not infiltrated in our police department. And looking back on it, we could have gone about it in a different way. We could have worked with our police officers, we could have done a better job to build trust, we could have done an internal investigation, we could have worked with everybody in the police department and say, this is a problem, you think it's a problem too, they were mad, we were mad, how can we move forward together? And that's a mistake that I made, and I've admitted that to our police department as well, and I said that I'm sorry. This is something that we should have handled differently, we could have, and we had to take a lot of time to rebuild that trust. And I have taken time to rebuild that trust, and if I could go back, I would have made that decision differently. But I am proud to say that I didn't compromise my values, things that I was trying to do were I think the right things to do, but it was the wrong way to go about it at the time.
I wish I had one of those booming voices. Really. So we've got things on transportation, we've got things on taxes, we've got things on housing. It runs the gamut, some zoning questions as well. But I'm going to take the privilege and ask the question, another broad sweeping question. If you would, Jimmy, tell us the one most important thing you could do in this position as a legacy. What would that be, and why would that be the one?
So when you grow up working in the nonprofit sector, what you realize is you can't be an expert in everything, but you can know who the experts are in the community, and you can bring them to the table. On the city's best day, we are bringing every single person to the table. Experts, people with lived experience, people who are facing the biggest problems in our community, and making sure that their voices are heard, and that we are collaborating and building partnerships to address these challenges. The legacy that I would like to leave at the city of Boise is to make sure that when we talk about one city, one team, that team includes our staff, that team includes our community members, that includes everybody in the process who has the ability to help solve these problems. The city's doing amazing things. I would love to make sure during the next term that we figure out how we can continue to collaborate even more across sectors, and that's a legacy that continues beyond. We truly recognize the value when we bring more people to the table, when we get nonprofits involved, when we get our partnerships, and when we do collaboration.
One of the great honors and privileges that I enjoyed during my time at City Hall was to co-lead the local complete count of the 2020 census for the city of Boise. And I remember it was a challenging time because President Trump during his first term wanted to add a question about citizenship, which could have a chilling effect on folks in our community who are undocumented and not willing to participate in the census. But I stepped up to the challenge, and then Mayor Beater, who expressed concern about that, I said, I know how we can do this. What we do is we identify informal community leaders in our community who have earned the trust of members of our community who are often undercounted during the census. And that would include people who are experiencing houselessness, college students, people who don't speak English, people who are undocumented. And so I was honored to be able to lead that effort. And as a result, the city of Boise received awards for how well we did in identifying those informal community leaders who loaned us their credibility that they have earned within the community. So we have the second highest self-response rate for the 2020 census for cities that have a population of 200,000 or greater. That's another reason why I want to return to council. We have 2030 census coming up. I believe that having that same approach is the best way to ensure that we can identify ourselves as needing the federal funds that could be directed to us if we count everybody.
Thank you. Okay,
so I'm going to do my best to summarize. I think I found one question that kind of encompasses all the ideas. Property taxes went up again to 7.6% this year. What can you do to actually give taxpayers a break without hurting essential services? And we'll start with you, Mr. Halbert.
Thank you. Well, I think one thing property taxes did not go up for the citizens. So we did that to keep all years property taxes 3% per year. And if we didn't take full property tax the year before, then we would take it for 1% forever. So they raised 4%. The 7.6% number that people are thinking about is actually some misinformation that was put out into the community. And it revolves around an urban renewal district in downtown Boise that actually retired. So when there's an urban renewal district, the taxes freeze, and all the actual incremental tax income that would be collected goes specifically into that district to repair sidewalks, to help create more additional development, to really activate an area that has life that needs to be activated. When that district retires, all of a sudden that money goes back onto the city tax payroll. So instead of being invested in one specific area, it goes back into the area of the entire community. So it's inaccurate to say that there was a 7.6% increase for property taxes for homeowners. That's not going to be the case. You'll see your 3% plus 1% foregone, and the reason that we were able to take 1% foregone is because we didn't take the full 3% several times in years before. Property taxes are a challenge. The city actually is the only city in the state of Idaho who has its own property tax rebate program, where we go to houses with people who qualify for the Idaho circuit breaker tax, and we give them additional property tax relief from the city. Not only do we do that, these people automatically qualify. And what we do to make sure that every single person actually turns it in is we go door to door to door. When somebody hasn't turned it in, I will be knocking on your door, District 6, and say, here's a self-addressed envelope, all you have to do is sign it, all you have to do is turn it in, and it'll come in. We got 97% of the people who qualified last year to get additional property tax relief.
What Jimmy said, one of the things that, having been on the council for 5 years, that all of us who have served, one of the things that we observe is not a lot of people from the community coming to the public hearing for the budget. It is a missed opportunity from the community to be able to give input, to be able to have a say. All I can think of is that it is perhaps intimidating for the community to think about the budget and to not really understand it. I think that's something that we can do better as a city, is we can do a better job of making the budget more accessible. It could be that we have opportunities for the public to engage with us about different segments of the budget that may be of interest to them. I think right now it's a bit of a beast for people to wrap their head around, even though you can access it. You can access it from your own computer. But still, I think for myself, until I got onto the city council, I have to admit, I really didn't know much about what the city did. I didn't learn much until I was a homeowner for a brief period of time, and I was part of the neighborhood association. Renters tend to not be really discussed much at the city in terms of things like the budget, but we are very much affected by the taxes. We help pay taxes when we are renting. Some of that money goes towards the cost that property owners pay. But I think that would be the biggest thing, is we need to find a way to make the community feel more welcome in the process.
Okay, the reverse question. What would you do to control spending? Start with you.
I guess I would just expand on what I just said. I think it's important that we have members of the community have the opportunity to have a greater understanding of what it does, what it takes for us to run the city. Once you spend time at City Hall and you meet with different departments, you start to understand what a miracle it is that we get to live in the city. It's not a miracle, it's not magic. It takes a lot of highly trained professionals working, oftentimes in the shadows. You don't get to really see all the people that are making the city run. And one of the departments that I love the most is the Arts and History Department, mostly because of the history. Were it not for the Arts and History Department, I would not know the history of the League of Women Voters and their involvement in us having the Lander Street water treatment plant. I mean, that came into play so many decades ago. It's a wonderful piece of history. We don't often think about women or hear about women being involved in the sciences, in what is considered men's work, but they are critical to that. I mean, think about how we take for granted the drinking water, the clean water we enjoy. That costs money. And so I would say we just need to create more opportunities for people to understand how their money is used, and then also the opportunity to have a say on what is a priority for them. I would think clean water is at the top of that list.
Yeah, I think when we talk about controlling spending, I think we also need to make sure that we're talking about what are the community expectations for the money that we spend. We always need to make sure that we are using our taxpayer dollars responsibly, that those taxpayer dollars are used in the way that our community is demanding them. And that means that if our community is saying, we want to make sure that we have traffic enforcement, we want to make sure that we have adequate police department, we want to make sure that we have fire stations, we want to make sure that we have access to parks, we want to make sure that we have clean water to drink. When our community is telling us that they want us to tackle these issues, then we need to make sure that we're using the funding towards those issues. And what I'm hearing from the community is that these are things that they want. That the quality of life they have in Boise is something that they appreciate, it's something that they want to continue. They want to make sure that we're continuing to make the investments in the right places that we can. We also have departments like the Department of Innovation that is helping us find those efficiencies. What can we be doing better? How can we make sure that we're taking care of issues now before they go to bigger issues in the future? So that's maintenance, that's taking care of our current buildings, that's making sure that the green belt doesn't have cracks on it as a result of a lawsuit. And it takes money to make those things happen, but we need to make sure that we're always spending those funds responsibly and spending them in a way that is dictated by what our community expectations are. I do think that we have been spending that money responsibly. I do think it's been a challenging time. I also think that we have to understand that a lot of the reasons why the city has to raise property taxes is because the state has made it impossible for us to take full growth and full annexation. That means funds that have been available for cities in the past are no longer available, and we have to figure out a way to continue to maintain the services that our community members expect. And the state is now putting that burden on the cities, and we're trying to do our best to honor those expectations for our community members.
Maybe we can just bear that here. So let's move on to housing. This question is, we've got several on housing, and I think this question summarizes it well. BOISE is growing and shows no signs of slowing down. What is your plan to address the shortage of housing, especially affordable housing? And I think we're going to start with the assumption.
Thank you. Again, having a unique perspective of being a renter, it's a volatile existence to be a renter when you don't own the property that you call home. I think we tend to think in terms of homeowners, but we have 35 to 40% of the people who live in Boise are renters. And clearly we need more housing for them. One of the things that I think we need to be mindful of is what it is about Boise that we appreciate now, that we want to retain. I know for myself, I have never lived in an apartment complex. I have always lived in a home, a house. I was a homeowner for a brief period of time. I was in one of those tall skinny houses that were all the rage in the early 2000s. For 10 plus years, I lived in a mid-century modern duplex in the North End. I prefer that type of housing. I prefer having choices. I would love to rent an ADU. I would love to try out a tiny home. I might even be interested in a mobile home. I think there's a lot of people in our community who are open to living in different types of housing. I think the fact that we have our new zoning code is a living document. We are open to making changes to it, to update it, to make sure that it fits our needs now and into the future. At the end of the day, I think that's what we need, is we need to have housing, different types of housing, diverse housing options at different types of price points. And as I was going on today, there are people who want to path to homeownership as well.
So I think there's two different things. I think that there's access to affordable rentals and there's access to affordable homes, home ownership. And one of the things that we have to be doing in the city is trying to figure out what we can create that the market is not creating on its own. So the market right now is not creating affordable housing. The cost of building, the loans that the banks are giving is not allowing for developers to build housing that people can actually afford. Our old zoning code basically made sure the developers are going to see either a 4,000 square foot house, single family house, or was a huge apartment complex. The modern zoning code is designed to make that difference. It's designed to do a variety of different houses in every single neighborhood. The things that we need to be doing, the things that we are doing, is using our affordable housing land trust. Since I've been on council, we've got our first two affordable housing land trust projects to fruition. One is Wilson Station on State Street, right here in our district. The other one is the Franklin on Franklin and Orchard. This is city-owned property that we partnered with a private developer to make sure that we can keep those costs down, so that every single people living in those apartments are below median income for our city. There's additional spaces in those houses for families who have jobs, who are fighting homelessness, and there's on-site daycare in those facilities with spots for the people living in them. These are great places to live. They're next to parks. They've got great outdoor spaces. We need to continue to do our affordable housing measures like we have, but we also need to be making it ridiculously easy to build affordable starter homes. These are the houses that many of us grew up in. These are 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet, small starter homes in neighborhoods. And we can make it easier by streamlining that process, by having different types of housing that are actually pre-approved development. That may sound weird, but most of the houses in the North End were actually purchased out of this year's catalog. The designs were. We can have pre-approved small starter home houses that we can get in infill all over our city that not only makes it easier for folks to live, but also to purchase and generate generational wealth.
Another housekeeping question for you. What projects or programs do you think are an appropriate use of taxpayer funding? What do you think are inappropriate uses of taxpayer funding?
Well, I think that there's a lot of stuff that we're doing that are appropriate uses of taxpayer money. I think that we're hearing from the community members on what they want to see. Our affordable housing grant trust is one of them. Our parks, our 10-minute walk to a park goal is one of them. You can go to every single neighborhood association in Boise, and what they will tell you is that we want greater access to a park. And we built those parks all over the city of Boise. 74% of our community members now live within a 10-minute walking distance to a park. And what we hear from people is that more people want that close proximity. Close to places to play, places to go to school, places to work, places to eat, places to grab coffee. We need to be building neighborhoods where people actually want to live. And we are investing in those things. We're investing in the pathways plan, 112 miles of pathways across the entire city, so people don't have to leave their house, get into a car, and drive to the Greenbelt to go for a bicycle ride. So I think that we're making great investments with taxpayer money across the entire city. As far as what we're doing inappropriately with taxpayer money, we're doing things that we're we go through these legislation books page by page by page, hundreds of pages there, and if we see something that we don't like, we get rid of it. There's a different one of those uses in the past may not go away. And we're not going to be able to do this because there's going to go uses of taxpayer money. And we diligently go through that budget books and make sure that that doesn't happen.
I think for those of us who recall the challenges of the previous 5 years, especially during the pandemic, I think sometimes it's difficult for us to recognize the value of some of our investments until moments like that. And I know that during my time on the council, some of the arguments that I would hear for some members of the community for the use of tax dollars to go towards petrol cars or towards the development and the greening of the parks was viewed as wasteful. But I think as I saw people take to the outdoors during the pandemic as a way to manage their, not just their physical health, but their mental health, and to actually find a safe way to still be in connection with the community, I think we saw how that investment paid off. I remember there were times during council meetings where we would hear how there would be some traffic jams on some of our trails because people were using them so much. But it really spoke to the value of that investment. And I don't think we could have anticipated something like that. But there you have it. And I would also add, even our public art pieces. People were moisture crazy, locked up in their houses during that period of time. And now they had a place to go, who were able to enjoy these earlier investments. I would say any time that we can invest in a public space, it's the best way we can invest because the public in general gets to enjoy it. You don't have to be a wealthy person. You don't even have to be a Boise. We have people from all over the world who come to our city and enjoy our events. So that's my take on that.
Thank you very much. I have competing questions in two areas, so I'm going to just open this up. Interfaith sanctuary thoughts.
I voted for interfaith when I was on the council. It was a period of time where this was 2021. It was the last time I ran no skin in the game. And I felt that it was really important for the community to see that they had people sitting on the council who were listening and had not already made up their minds. And it was very difficult because there were people in the community who were very upset with me because I wasn't giving enough of an indication to either side about which way I would vote. But I think that's important. I think all members of the community should be able to propose something to the council and know that the decision hasn't been made behind closed doors. Because I think that was the perception. A lot of council members took a lot of heat from community members because of the way that was approached. And it was really unfair. If there were meetings like that, I was not part of those meetings. And so it was difficult. But I voted for interfaith. But I also think it's important that we respect everybody in our community. And that just as Jimmy and I have served on the council, that's our gift to the community. Anybody who is critical, anybody who's questioning anything we do with the city, that is also a gift to the community. And we should not feel that we are above being questioned. That's probably one of the most critiqued and scrutinized community leader in the last 5 or 6 years. So I'm used to it. And it is also part of the community gift to ask questions.
So I think one of the important to remember is that any organization, private, nonprofit, gets to decide where they want to purchase a land or where they want to operate. And then they have to come in front of city council, and then we have to make a decision of whether or not it fits city code. Interfaith Sanctuary decided that they needed a new location. They clearly outgrown their last location. We're looking for another one and identified a location. We did not pick that location for them or should we. That's not our responsibility, and that goes against private property rights. And then it comes to city council and conditional use permit. And then our job as city council members are to say, is this appropriate for this location? If it's not, are there conditions that can be put in place to address the concern, to mitigate negative impact? And then we make a decision based off of code, based off of law. And if there's a gray area, then it comes down to some of the values that it has to find the code, and it has to put law first. We found conditions that we believe mitigate concerns of interfaith sanctuary in that area. I want to know, I've spent my entire life working with vulnerable populations. I've spent my entire life working with vulnerable communities. And these are human beings, and these are people just like every single person in this room. Never have I felt unsafe, never have I felt like my life was threatened. These are people who need a helping hand. And while some people may not want them in their neighborhood, they may not know who these people actually are. And what I would say is if you get a chance to meet these people, if you get a chance to go down to the Interfaith Sanctuary, there's a chance it might change your mind. And you may realize that this is somebody just like you in the wrong situation. You could have been in the same situation that they're in as well. So we need to treat people with compassion. And as city council members, we need to make sure that we're making good decisions based on our city code, putting conditions in place. And then it's our responsibility to follow up on those conditions and make sure that we do what we promise we're going to do.
I think here's what I would chicken land. Collaborating or not with ICE. Thoughts?
Collaborating with ICE. The city is not collaborating with ICE, so that's not how it works. So Ada County Sheriff's Department are actually the agency that would be working with ICE if ICE was here in our valley, and they are here in our valley. The collaboration that takes place is that if ICE is doing anything, they have to tell our Boise Police Department first, so they know whether they need to respond or whether there's going to be calls from the community members. But we are not telling our police officers to be collaborating with ICE. We are not holding any people who are being detained in any of our facilities. That's the Ada County Sheriff's Office. Every single person in our community deserves to feel safe in their home. They deserve to feel safe in their neighborhood. And the city does have to take a stand, but we also have to make sure that we're following the law. At this point, we are not telling our police officers that they need to collaborate with ICE whatsoever. The Ada County Sheriff's Office is going to be the group who will be detained, pulled off the streets, treated in inhumane ways, and put into jail. Those are not the city of Boise's facilities. We follow the law, and that's not our responsibility. That's the Ada County Sheriff's Office.
I'm just gonna go back to my original introduction, why I chose to run for office in 2017. It was, a recognition of the privilege of being a U.S. citizen by birth. Never did I think that I would get to 2025 and feel the need to carry a photograph of my birth certificate on my person when in public. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of the Supreme Court decision that does empower ICE if they suspect a person of being undocumented and being able to detain them. That's chilling. I never thought I would experience that ever in my lifetime. However, I did grow up in Burley, Idaho, very near Minnesota, where we have the remnants of Japanese internment camps. Unfortunately, our country does have a history of turning against its own people during difficult times. And those people have included the Mexican people who were at one point repatriated back to Mexico. These are U.S. citizens. Some of them do not speak Spanish, have never been to Mexico, but like me are of Mexican descent. So, in 2018, when the first Trump administration decided to separate children from their families at the southern border, the city of Boise took a strong stance and issued a resolution announcing that. I would like to see the city of Boise follow that and also issue a resolution denouncing the way that the folks of Monitor were treated recently. I think we need to take a stronger stance than we see the rest of the country.
And I really appreciate you allowing me to ask such open-ended questions. Okay, let's move on to something a little less, maybe a little. It will cause some consternation. I know there's what efforts should be taken in Boise to improve traffic?
Improve traffic, I think the police would want traffic. I would say we can't give up. There are so many challenges. Jimmy has mentioned, that there are limitations that unfortunately our state has placed on us by the state of Idaho that other states don't have. There are other communities that have the financial support they need to create a useful public transportation system. We have struggled here in Boise to get one that operates at a level that would really help us address the traffic that we're talking about. In my observation, it seems to me that the people who are embracing public transportation are people who can afford to choose it as a lifestyle, as part of their value system, which is wonderful, or people who don't have any other choice. But I think for your average Boisean, I think it's difficult to use what we currently have. But it is kind of the chicken and the egg thing, right? And I know that there are issues with some of the ways that we are approaching our housing stock in trying to limit how many cars end up parked in development, because we have to start making changes, and it can't just be one. So we have the transportation-oriented development that we're focusing on State Street. I think we need to stick with those ideas and see them all the way through so that we can start to get traction and people can start to see the benefit of making these concerted efforts. So I would say we just got to keep on doing what we're doing.
How is that going to go from high-speed traffic? Traffic safety, traffic is a serious conversation. For the average household in Boise takes 10 vehicle trips to and from the house, 10 vehicle trips per day. So when we're talking about transportation, when we're talking about making our traffic better, the goal isn't to eliminate all single occupancy vehicles. How do we take some of those off the plate? How do we get it down from 10 to 6? That's a 40% reduction in traffic trips. And the way that we do that is make it easier for people to walk or bike or take public transportation or at least some of those trips, transportation options. And we can do that by making sure that we've got safe streets and neighborhoods, that we've got sidewalks, that we've got crosswalks, we've got pedestrian crossings, that we continue to build out the 112-mile pathways plan that passed in 2021, creating off-street greenbelt style pathways in every single neighborhood along here now on Howard and Roller improvements. So we can do it by building schools close to our houses. We can do it by putting coffee shops, small commercial in neighborhoods. So somebody can leave their front yard, go down and go out without having to get in the car. So it's not about eliminating traffic, it's about reducing traffic trips. So we have to be making more walkable, bikeable neighborhoods, and we have to be taking steps now, today, to bring regional rail back to Boise, connects Caldwell all the way to Boise and every single city in between. It's going to take years to make this happen, but we have to start the process today, protecting regions, building infrastructure, applying for grants, because if we really want to address traffic congestion, that is how we're going to do it. And as a council member, that will be one of my main focuses in the next 4 years.
So on to zoning. Having followed the implementation of the upzone a few years ago, I believe both of you were in favor of the upzone in spite of bipartisan opposition. Members of the public will be assured that the terms of the upzone, quote, are not set in stone and can be modified as needed. How do you reassure us that the terms of the upzone can be modified and that the public will be heard? Our neighborhoods are our biggest investment. How do you honor that via policy?
So I think when we're referring to the upzone, we're talking about the modern zoning code. So the city zoning code had not been changed, comprehensive update, in almost 60 years. And so in the last several years, we passed a new modern zoning code to make sure that as our city grows, we had a code to fit our goals for the future. Making sure that we were creating neighborhoods that had coffee shops, that had small commercial, making sure that we were putting density not in places they should be, but along transit corridors where they had best-in-class transit systems like State Street, like Vista, like Fairview, making sure that we were developing our community in a sustainable way. And the code that we had was not working, was not predictable. Neighbors were coming from us time and time again and saying, this isn't what we thought was going to happen. So we did outreach for almost a 5-year period of time, getting input from every single neighborhood, from developers, from small developers, from nonprofits, to our most vulnerable community members, figuring out what their needs were in Boise, and that's what the modern zoning code was developed around. Is the modern zoning code perfect? No, nor should it be. It's never going to be perfect. It's a living document. Because it continues to change, the document needs to be changed. What I would say about the modern zoning code is the goals of the code are the right goals. Now, our responsibility as council members is to make sure that we're delivering on goals. And so if we have something in there that isn't creating the type of housing we want to see, then maybe there's some changes that need to be made to make that smaller infill development easier. If the community decides that it needs to grow in a different way, then we need to make those changes with both continuous improvements, but also getting feedback from the community for larger improvements that need to be made based off of the outcomes that it's delivering. I think it's going to deliver well. I think that all the projects that people see today are still being done in past code. The new zoning code projects are just now being built. And I do think it's a way for smarter, healthier communities.
One of the benefits that comes from having to move out of my neighborhood 10 plus years, I lived in the north end, a couple of blocks west of PEIRCE Boulevard in a really great complex. So we moved from there to the Vista Edge area. I had a different experience. And I'm really grateful for it because it showed me what sidewalks that I have on my street that made it possible for my neighborhood to feel more connected. I really enjoyed the pedestrian traffic. That was on my, I would sit on my deck with my cat. I enjoyed visiting with neighbors. I lost that. I was really grateful to find a tall, skinny house to rent up on the bench, but we didn't have sidewalks. It really affected the way my community, my little neighborhood interacted with each other. I was there for 2 years. And I really missed the individuality that I had in my life. And I really understood through living differently how that infrastructure affects the way community interacts. So I would say I think we need more opportunities for our community to give input that's not about the technicality, but about the quality of life. It would into the technicalities of it all, but in terms of what is it that you enjoy, what do you want to see, what do you want your experience to be like in the city of Boise, in your neighborhood. I think that might help us alleviate some of the heartburn that some folks are experiencing about the updated zoning code, but we need to stay engaged, and not everybody can stay engaged when they talk about the different technical terms involved in zoning.
Thank you very much. But when we have what we call empty chair forum, that means that one of the chairs is empty or two or three of them are empty, we shrink the amount of time that we're actually going to be doing the forum. So we're going to cut this by a half hour, which means we have a half hour remaining, if that's all right. And I think we can get through most of the questions. Oh, I like this one. We are a league, we have 5 leagues in the state of Idaho. In Coeur d'Alene, in Pocatello, in the greater Boise area, in Lewiston, and in Moscow. The greater Boise area is intentionally named greater Boise area because we do believe that Treasure Valley and Boise and Caldwell and Napa, they're all interconnected. So this is the question. Imagine Treasure Valley 10 years from now. What does it look like?
Ideally, we will have gotten further down the path with public transportation. I think we have people who are desperate for it. I think it would add something to our quality of life in terms of making us feel more connected, feel more empowered to enjoy all the amenities in our city. I think it would also help us not feel so siloed within our neighborhoods. I think about Harrison Boulevard. We all know that the 2,000 or 3,000 kids who show up to trick or treat are not all from that part of our city. I would like to see that. I would like to see more of us enjoying each other's municipalities. I know that the city of Caldwell has done a lot to improve their downtown area. I have a number of friends who go out to Caldwell because they love it. I was just out there the other day visiting my friend Saw Alamia, who is the James Beard Award winner for his wonderful restaurant Mama. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see us have more interaction with each other's communities. I would like to see us having more opportunities to visit each other in these interesting homes that can be created. I think I'd like to see more people from different socioeconomic levels participate in leadership roles in our city. Not everybody can be the director of a nonprofit or a council member, but we know that there are people in our community who have earned the respect of other community members and they're trusted. I would like to see those folks in these leadership roles.
It's a lot to ask to give a 10-year vision in the 92nd period of time. I'm going to start with 4 years. So 4 years from now, here's what the next 2 years. Whitney Pool will be built right next to Whitney Community Center. Our biggest commuter school in the entire city is going to be open to hundreds of kids to go swimming when the days are the hottest. There'll be at least 10 miles of our Pathways Master Plan built connecting people across our city. Just, you know, our regional is 50 miles. Maybe that will be an additional 10 miles of what that may look like. We'll have additional steps in place to make sure that regional rail, which could happen 10 years from now, are ready to go, grant funds are being pursued, infrastructure is built, teams are protected. 4 years from now, I think we'll have starter homes that are being built in our community. I think that we'll find a way to bring those costs down, to streamline the process, and shorten the time, to make it easier for small and local developers and people who, you know, have space in their own backyards to build ADUs, smaller houses, to address some of our affordable housing crisis. 4 years from now, we'll have 4 more affordable land trust projects in place. So we can think about 10 years from now, but we can also think about what can we do in the next 4 years to build that up. When I think about 10 years from now, here's my hope. I hope that we've got that regional rail in place. I think that we can make it happen, but my biggest hope of all is that we're still communities that are kind and friendly to each other, that we still lift up our neighbors, and when somebody breaks down on the side of the road, we still help them fix their tire, and we still invite them over to dinner afterwards, because that's the business of the regardless of who I is. And we can continue to be that way, we support each other, we stand up for each other, and we make sure that Boise remains the beacon of hope that it is today. And that 10 years from now, Boise is still that beacon of hope. That's a great vision.
Okay. Being a city council member or any public servant means pouring your heart into a project only to have it rejected. Give an example of how you have dealt with that kind of rejection and moved on to positively serve.
I would say running in this race. It was very difficult after working in 2021 to be elected to my second term on the Boise City Council. It was a hard-fought race. I was exhausted at the end of that race. I had not experienced that level of vitriol directed at me, but I knew it was for a good reason. And again, I harken back to what motivated me to run to begin with in 2017. It was an appreciation for being a U.S. citizen and all that I get to do with that privilege. And so, I decided that I had learned some things in my 2 years away from the city council, including the year that I was meant to serve a full term. And I'm a woman of faith. I believe there was a reason for that experience. And a city council member lost the ability to serve their community. That should never happen again. An entire district should not lose their chosen representative. And it made me realize that if that could happen to a city council member, what other ways are members of our community being let down by the city of Boise? I feel that that's why I had that experience. And that it gave me pause and made me realize I can be an advocate for people if I return to city hall, having had that experience myself. And realizing that if we are experiencing lawsuits at the city, what are we doing to revisit how we got there? Where is the mistake in the process that we have made that has ended up costing taxpayers money? That's also part of being a good steward, is are we taking a look at some of these missteps and making course corrections to make sure that doesn't happen again?
In 2023, there was a young boy named Jake, went to Boise High School, my daughter goes there. And on his way to register for school, he was riding a skateboard and he was hit in an intersection by a truck who ran a red light. And I've spent my entire life advocating for safe streets, trying to make sure that the thousands of kids who ride bicycles to are safe neighborhoods and safe places to ride. And so when something like this happens, it breaks your heart. I've seen families devastated. I've seen families never be able to recover, and I've also seen families become incredibly courageous to do something about it. One of the things that resulted from that horrific crash was I helped create the Traffic Fatality Review Task Force, a way for our ACHD commissioners, some of which we have here in the audience today, our police department, our city staff, our city leadership, we sit down in a room and figure out what happened at this intersection. Could this horrific crash have been prevented? What can we do to fix it? And what other intersections and roads across the entire city have the same contributing factors so we can change the policy to make sure that there happens again? One of the things that we created was a red light camera pilot project, so that we can put red light cameras in school zones to make sure that if somebody ran a red light in the school zone, that a picture would be taken of their license plate, a sworn officer at the end of the day could review the footage and could issue a ticket. This is something that we know has changed driver behavior, that has saved lives all around the country, and something that would have worked. And the next year, the state took it away. They preempted us. This happens time and time again. The state says they want local control, but they don't give local control. They take away anything that maybe they don't like. This is something that would have saved people's lives, and it's hard. And what you do is you keep trying. You keep trying. You keep building partnerships. You keep meeting with legislators to figure out, can we undo this? Can we find a way? Can we work with the police department to change somebody's mind that this is something that will help our community? So it is hard when we lose those things that can help our community in significant ways, and that's when you double it. And that's when you try.
Thank you. I want to ask a follow-up question about that. During the legislative session, Boise comes up a lot. And the ordinances, the decisions that we make, oftentimes seem to run afoul of the direction the legislature would let us go. How do you work on that relationship? Is it getting better? And where do you see this going?
There we go. I wish I could say that it was getting better. I'm not sure that it is. I think that when you have division, partisan division in national politics, it filters down layer by layer by layer, and you have to try to figure out, well, where to do stuff. And I would say that local politics is where it's best. And it's because they are nonpartisan races, and it should always be nonpartisan. It's important to remember that the legislation passed by those legislators are not created.
They're not created in these states. These policies that are put forward attacking Boise are created in these things.
Something radical enough to get up and say, I'm going to move this forward, and then it happens on party lines. And that's not good for everybody. We need to make sure that our cities have the tools they need to address the local problems that they have. The state would say that about the federal government. They would say, don't tell us what to do. We want to make sure that we've got the tools to fix our problems, but yet they don't always give that to the city of Boise. We still have to be making partnerships. We still have to be meeting with people and figuring out where we can have common ground, what we can agree upon, and how we can push beyond partisan lines. One of the things that I'm proud of is my ability to bring people together, to find that common ground across differences, across backgrounds, figure out what it is that we can agree on, and how we can move forward together. So I wouldn't say that it's getting better, but I'm somebody who's hopeful, and I'm not somebody who's ever going to stop trying to build those bridges and make those relationships.
There are less than 2% of all elected officials in this entire country who identify as Latino. That's members of Congress, that's mayors, governors, council members, county commissioners, school board members. Because I am part of an elite group of people who get to call themselves elected officials, I don't get to mess up. I don't get to make excuses. I have to deliver. And so when I worked on the rental application fee ordinance of 2019, it required that I be very, very strategic, very mindful, and that if we pass that ordinance at the city level, that there is a very high chance that the state legislature would try to overturn it. And so every step of the way had to be very gingerly done. And I benefited from listening to people who know better than me. It takes courage to run for office, but it also takes humility to serve the people. And we don't know everything. We can't be experts in everything. And so the way that I was able to not only get that legislation passed was it came from the community. They wanted us. They were invested in it. And they worked with me shoulder to shoulder to make sure that we passed it. But not only that, when it was targeted for preemption in 2021 and 2022, they were with me. Even though some of them had moved out of state, I had a constituent Zoom into the state house to be able to testify and protect this ordinance from being overturned. And she didn't even live in Idaho anymore. That's how invested she was. So I think we need to be very careful and recognize that we can't do everything, and to focus, and be very focused on what we do put our shoulders into, and so that those partnerships that we create are long-lasting and deep, and that they will last even when an individual doesn't even call our community their home. That's how I think it.
Thank you very much. Speaking of working with the state, how would you work with the state to get school impact fees allowed?
We're getting all the easy questions at the end. The only way I've ever been able to do my work is from a very personal place. As a storyteller, I think we deal in ordinances and laws and regulations and statutes, but at the end of the day, we are people. We are members of a human family. We are members of a community. I think the best way to approach this is we need to do more listening than we do talking. And so I would say that we need to find out what is it about education that has us so divided. As I shared earlier, the only way I was able to become a college graduate was through a federal program that made it possible specifically for farm workers, for the children of farm workers to have access to higher education. My guess is somebody knew somebody. Somebody knew the story of a farm worker family who made an impression on a decision maker. Because that's a very specific focus, right? Out of all the locations to create a federal scholarship program for farm workers and their children. I think that's a big part of it, is we need to have a conversation. We need to find out what is it that we want from our education system. What do we want these schools to be in our community? And look where we are tonight. This is where we're having this event. So clearly, it provides more than a space for our children to learn. It is a community center where we can come together. I think we just need to keep those avenues of conversation open and find out where do we align. My guess is if we took the time to have those conversations, we would find out that we are in alignment more than we are not. But right now, I think we need to be brave and have those conversations.
When I was first elected in 2019 and took office in 2020, the state passed a new law that moved cities into city council districts if they had over 100,000 people. And whether you like it or not, that's just the reality. And during that time, they also made it so that if you ran unopposed, your name wouldn't appear on the ballot. So when I ran for re-election in 2023, most of you went to the ballot box, you actually didn't see the name of the city council member on your ballot, which is incredibly confusing, bad for democracy. It makes it so people don't know who's representing them, and it doesn't necessarily push the person who's on the ballot to make sure that they're out there engaging with people. Very next year, Councilmember Wills, who probably falls on a different political spectrum than I am, but she's also a very close friend, and I've had the privilege of working with her for the last 4 years in the city council. She was in the same situation. She ran unopposed. She wasn't on the ballot. She also recognized that this was bad for democracy. And so the two of us worked together. We found a Republican senator, we found a Democrat senator, and we created a bill that we took into the state house, and we said, this is bad for democracy, this is bad for constituents, this is confusing, and together, working across party lines, we were able to make change happen. When we're talking about school impact fees, or anything else that needs to be done in the state, we have to start figuring out a way to work across barriers. With people who are different than us, but still have something that we agree on. I think that that's something that we can do. I think that those partnerships are still available to build, and I think that that's how we get something like that done.
Thank you very much. Okay, this one is a personal task for you. How are you going to improve water quality? What is that? How are you?
Well, I think that the other thing that everybody's concerned about this year is the clean water and open space levy. One of the most important things that I think that you'll have the ability to vote on in the next several years. This is something that we use to protect open space from development. This is something that we use to clean up our Boise River. This is something that we use to improve banks, to create reserves, to make sure that as the city grows, that we continue to have quality open space and continuing to protect our water. So voting in support of the clean water and open space levy is something that every single community member, including myself, can do to advocate for cleaner water. When I was first elected to city council, we passed our water plan. We live here in the high mountain desert, and we have to make sure that we're investing in technology, investing in public works to make sure that the water that we're using is actually recycled and used again for industrial, for watering our lawns, for a variety of different things instead of letting something go down the river that we can't be using again. So we need to continually invest in our public works department. We need to continue to invest in our open space and clean water. We need to make sure that any water that's coming from the city and going into the river is clean as it possibly can be, that meets all those requirements. And we're making investments right now in the forest, so the clean water open space levy is going to be something every single community member can do to make sure that we're all protecting clean water in our community.
As somebody who's relatively new to running process in 2017, there were a lot of organizations that I was unaware of, including the League of Women Voters. I learned about these wonderful organizations my first time running. Another organization that I learned about was Conservation Voters of Idaho. I learned that I was invited to an endorsement interview, and I had been warned by people in the community, "We're not going to endorse you," he said. Don't feel bad. And so I thought, well, I don't have anything to lose. They're not going to endorse me, so I can be myself. And so before my endorsement interview, I did a Google search. Latinos and conservation issues. On the very day that I Googled that, there was a study put out by, I believe it was Yale, saying that the most politically engaged population when it comes to conservation issues are Latinos. And then within that group, Spanish-speaking Latinos. Right. And then my next question was conservation groups in the Latino community. Lots of articles about how we're not so good about reaching out to our community. So I went into that endorsement interview and I let them know. These are the reasons why I think you need endorsement. We are the most politically engaged when it comes to conservation issues. I don't think you have connections with our community. I did get the endorsement in 2017. was drawn between me and Frank Walker, but I did get it in 2021. And in 2022, I connected the Latino community with the city of Boise to start the Idaho Latino Conservation Week event. That's part of the way we do that, is we expand our community in terms of the issues that we consider to be a priority. We didn't realize that that community also considers it a priority, but we need to create avenues for those conversations. I also have invited a member of the Native American community to be part of the Clean Water Open Space Committee. Unfortunately, they were not appointed. And if I were to get back on the council, I would then urge that. Conservation groups are very quiet, very welcome. If we want these issues, if we want sustainability, we need to invite everyone to the table. That includes people of color, that includes people who are not healthy, and something I've done and would love to continue to do.
Okay, I have two more questions that I think need to be addressed, but since we're running short on time, I'll ask for 1 minute for these questions. The Boise police have made headlines. What are your thoughts on the state of this department now?
From my time on the council, something that was made very clear, that is that our community is growing rapidly, and our ability to keep enough police officers on staff is not keeping pace for a variety of reasons. I know there were times that we would be in the process of interviewing prospective police officers, but they would not ultimately be able to accept the offer because they couldn't find housing. So a lot of these issues that we've talked about in general tonight, they intersect. I think we need to recognize that we have perhaps potential for police officers within our own community. I think we should have an effort to grow our own. We recently had Corporal Ed Bueno, a longtime Boise police officer, retired, but I was happy to see a young woman, a young Latina from Twin Falls, step into his role. I think that's something we could be doing, is we could be growing our own police officers from Idaho. I think it would do a lot to improve any issues of discrimination that you may have heard about. And I don't think it's fair to scapegoat the police department. Any department reflects the community. I'd say if there's any issues like that, then there are issues throughout our state, throughout our city, throughout our county. And so that's the way we should look at that.
Yeah, we've said that our police officers make headlines. The one thing I would say is that some of those headlines in the past have been negative, but I would say that a lot of those headlines have been really good as well. Our police officers have done good work to save people in our community. They've stepped up in traffic enforcement efforts recently that have saved the lives of people walking, biking, and riding on motorcycles. We ask our police officers to do a lot, to respond to a lot of extremely complicated calls. One of the first things that I did on City Council is advocate for a new behavioral health response team that pairs a sworn officer who has training with mental health with a mental health specialist that's a civilian. And these can begin to respond to the growing number of mental health calls that we have in the valley. We now have 3 of those units. We have a refugee liaison officer, we have an LGBTQ+ liaison officer, we have a Hispanic liaison officer. We've got officers who are doing incredible things in our community. I think they're doing a good job. I think that they've got great leadership with Chief Dennison, and I think that as the training improves, they're going to continue to do an even better job in our community to solve the needs that we have here in a growingly complex time to be a police officer.
Before I ask you to do a closing statement. With all the kitchen table issues you face, why should the council make public pronouncements on social issues?
So every single city council member's #1 responsibility should be Every single person who lives in our community has the right to be safe and feel safe in their home and when they're walking around on the streets of Boise. And when there is legislation that is passed at national or state levels that attacks any demographic of community member, it is the city's responsibility to step up and stand up for them. And we've done that time and time again. I've said this before, but Boise can be and will continue to be a beacon of hope if we keep standing up for our neighbors that are being pushed down from other areas. And so while I don't think it's great for the city of Boise to get involved in national politics and take stances on social issues, it is when it becomes a matter of public safety. And I'm proud of the things that I've done on city council to make sure that we are standing up for every single person who lives in Boise exactly the way that they are.
I'm sure we've all heard this phrase, in reference to Boise, we've heard the word Boise kind, right? I have experienced that the entire time I lived in Boise. I was 18 years old. I have always felt this community be there in my moment of need. I think when we, on occasion, put forward these resolutions, which don't happen very often, it's because we want to reaffirm that identity that we have of being kind, not just to the people who live in our city and call it home, but to those who visit our city, to let them know that this is a safe place for them. Now, I have challenged the city at times to make a very deep commitment to that. When I first got to City Hall in 2018, I observed some things that I thought indicated that we needed to have a strategic plan for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm very proud to say I initiated that work at the 2018 because I saw that it was necessary. It's not enough to pass resolutions. It's not enough to raise a pride flag. We've had members of our staff have to file lawsuits against the city for being discriminated against. I don't want people to have to suffer and then have to use the law to find justice. I don't want them to be hurt from the beginning. So for me, it would be, no, the resolutions are not enough. We need to make a commitment to be better, to do better, so that we don't cause harm.
One of the privileges of being a non-partisan organization is that we don't engage in politics. We are seen as a neutral organization to allow people to have conversations across differences. So I really appreciate you being here this evening, and thank you all for coming. Now I'm going to ask you to do a 1-minute elevator speech, and I know that you don't know what that means. Yes.
First, I just want to thank you for twice electing me to serve on the Boise City Council. As I shared with you, I have a particular appreciation for what that means, what that says about our community, that you would be one of the few in the entire country to elect somebody from my background to represent you on the Boise City Council. I take that work very seriously. I learned a lot during my time at the council, and I've learned a lot from my time off the council. Most recently, I was a federal employee, and having that perspective gives me an appreciation for many of our federal employees who now find themselves on furlough, struggling. That is the perspective that I bring to the work. I think in order to be a truly empathetic leader, you need to suffer. You need to know what it's like to feel the difficulties of life, so that when you take on this work, you don't make excuses and you follow through. And that is what I want to do on the Boise City Council if you'll have me again.
Well, thank you again. I'm going to start where, or finish where I started, and that's to say, Boise is an incredible place to live. We talk a lot of issues tonight, it can seem a little bit overwhelming. I think that one of the things that we have to remember is how great this community really is. And it certainly does have its challenges. And to address those challenges, we need city council members who are laser focused on the immediate issues that we face today not losing sight of the long-term goal that are going to serve generations to come. From pathways master plans, to climate action plans, to our youth roadmaps, to fire stations, to parks, to pathways, to affordable housing land trust developments, I've proven my ability to do both of those things, solve immediate needs and address the long-term challenges we're going to have down the road. I love this community. I grew up here. I think that Boise is a beacon of hope in the state. I think that Boise is a beacon of hope in Idaho because each and every single one of you make it a beacon of hope. You fight for Boise. You stand up for each other. You take care of your neighbors and you do hard things because this is something our community can do together. My focus as a city council member is to bring people together. That's been what I've done my entire life. And that's what I plan to do for the next 4 years as we continue to make Boise a beautiful place for everyone to live and do the hard things to overcome the challenges that we face. Again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for being here to advance democracy.
And now we have there are still cookies. And each of us can take material for all 3 weekends.
Can we take one of those?
I assume so. I assume that's why they brought them.
Oh, okay. I'll leave it right here. I'm not ready to leave, but
Okay.
I'll just set it over here.
That's great.
I gotta go write the story now. It's due in like an hour and a half. So.
Are you a reporter?
Yeah.
With who?
My name's Carolyn. I'm a reporter with the Idaho Statesman.
Oh, Raphael. I'm a civil activist. I want to talk to reporters about getting some stories out regarding the city of Boise. Do you have a card?
Yeah, I have a card.
I'm an independent journalist too, but I haven't really published anything. I'm in the process of gathering all the information. But something maybe you guys might be interested. If not, that's fine. But cool.
Well,
thank you.
that's my editor. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I know. So, like, if you want to talk about promoting democracy,
Yeah,
that's
participate.
participate.
I just have a quick
Yeah.
question. Just do HOAs have to comply with tiny houses, AUDs or whatever?
ADUs.
ADUs.
So, not really. So the city code overrides anything that's in an HOA. And so the city code is the overriding legal document.
Okay.
People can do things in an HOA. If it violates the HOA, then the HOA could potentially do a lawsuit. And what we have found is that if it still results to the city code, that people typically win those lawsuits, but people usually don't do it because nobody wants to get into a lawsuit. And so, yeah, the city code is the overriding rule for land use. There are the HOAs, but the HOAs are pretty unenforceable other than like them taking something to a lawsuit. And again, they typically lose, but nobody wants to go to that lawsuit. Yeah.
Thank you for your.
You betcha. What was your name?
Elaine.
Elaine. It's so nice to meet you. I'm Jimmy.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. You live here? How long have you lived here in Boise?
I've lived here since '73.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was born in Colorado.
Okay. Yeah.
Went to California for a few years then.
Yep. All right. Well, good deal.
And I appreciate what you're doing. What I would like to see more of, I'm west of Gary Lane.
Okay.
Hate getting across State Street to the Greenbelt. And so, I love all of the bikeways, but there's nothing to get me across safely.
So, a couple of things there, which I would say is good news, is there are going to be some enhanced crossings that occur at Duncan and Bogart. It's going to take a while for those to happen, but with all of our State Street that we're redoing,
Right.
and